Hey everybody, what's going on? I'm Coach Mike and welcome to this episode of the MindFit Method podcast. All right, so today we are going to talk about battling vampires. And while it may not be the blood-sucking vampires that you're used to in movies, like Bela Lugosi all the way back in the original Dracula, or Tom Cruise in An Interview with a Vampire, or even Blade in the Marvel movie Blade, we're going to talk about a different type of vampire. And these are vampires that we literally face every day as parents, as teachers. And not only do we need to face these vampires, but we also need to teach our kids to be able to face these vampires too, because they are the vampires that literally suck away our time, our productivity, and are literally affecting our lives.
So the giant question is this: how do we as parents, teachers, school administrators, policymakers, coaches, how do we prepare our kids for a future that doesn't yet exist? All while making them healthier, more creative, more innovative, better problem solvers, and overall successful contributors to society. That is the question, and this podcast has the answers. My name is Coach Mike, and welcome to the MindFit Method podcast.
All right, so you probably saw the title of this episode today, and we're probably thinking Coach Mike has absolutely lost his mind. But as we're in December, the holidays are coming. There's so many extra things that we got to do on a daily basis, and yet constantly around us, and I see my kids face it. I know I face it, and I know coworkers of mine face it, and friends of mine face it. There are literally vampires that are sucking the daylights out of us on a regular basis when it comes to our time, our productivity, and trying to get all the things done that we're trying to get done, trying to be productive, trying to establish effective habits, and they literally are just attaching themselves to us, and it is by design. These vampires that we're facing today are by technological design, and we really have to decide how we're going to fight against them. And that's really what I want to talk about today. So again, while I'm not talking about the vampires in Twilight, I am talking about 4 specific types of vampires that are affecting us every day. The first one is a time-sucking vampire. We have energy-sucking vampires. We have motivation-sucking vampires. And we have productivity-sucking vampires. So there are 4 specific types of vampires that I want to talk about today and how we can effectively battle them to accomplish more and to just be happier in our daily lives. Now, I don't think you'll be surprised as to what the biggest time vampire is, but of course, it is social media. And in 2022, social media, while it may be, quote unquote, one of the best ways to connect, because it allows people to stay in touch, across continents, across time zones, we're connected in so many ways today that previous generations couldn't even dream of. But with that constant connection comes a really serious question, and it's how much time do people actually spend on social media each day? Now, on social media, I'm just talking about things like Facebook, like Instagram, like TikTok, things like that. And in 2022, we are spending approximately, are you ready for this? 147 minutes, which is equivalent to 2 hours and 27 minutes on social media every day. And that is just an average. So there are people that do less, and there are certainly people that do more. That is literally the middle of the road. And, we have to understand how impactful social media is in the lives of people. And it really changes. And here's what's fascinating. If you look at the most recent data that has come out about the time spent on social media by continent, in North America, we spend on average 2 hours and 6 minutes. In South America, they spend approximately 3 hours and 24 minutes. In Africa, they spend 3 hours and 10 minutes. In Europe, they only spend an hour and 15 minutes. And in Asia, they spend on average about 2 hours and 16 minutes on social media. And really what that means on average is that the average person is going to spend in a lifetime with an average global lifespan of 73 years, they're going to spend more than 3.4 million minutes using social media over their lifetime. So it is impossible to say that social media is not a vampire and literally sucking the living daylights out of your time on a daily, monthly, and yearly basis, because those numbers are just staggering. So then the next question kind of turns in as to, well, how many minutes are spent on each type of social media platform? So on average, people spend about 33 minutes a day on Facebook. They spend about 29 minutes a day on Instagram, 28 minutes a day on WhatsApp, 31 minutes a day on Twitter, on Snapchat, about 31 minutes a day. And surprisingly, on LinkedIn, on average, less than a minute a day, which is interesting. On Pinterest, on average, about 14 minutes a day. So you can see, like, it's not just one. When we think of social media, we think of like one app. But when you add all of these different apps together and you see how much time we're spending, you're just going to see that the landscape is only going to continue to change. And the younger generations are actually using social media more than ever before. Now, when you add that social media time that we're talking about with those types of platforms, and then you add the amount of time that we spend watching videos. So that is not included. If we're talking about Facebook, we're talking about scrolling through Facebook. We're not talking about watching reels or watching videos. Same for Instagram. Because when you start to look at those numbers, it is staggering. So on average, and here's what's amazing, as I was trying to really identify this data, the data really varies so much. There are studies that have been done that show that Americans are watching up to 8 hours of streaming time each day. There are other studies that show that on average they're doing about an hour a day. But it seems to be like the average is about an hour and 40 minutes a day that a person is spending watching some type of video on some type of streaming platform. Okay. And while an hour and 40 minutes doesn't sound like that much, that doesn't include TV time. Okay. That is watching videos on a phone or on an iPad. So an hour and 40 minutes a day equivalents to about 14 hours a week and 420 hours a month. Okay, and that's in 2022. Compared to 2019, the time has grown by 50%. In just 3 years, it's grown by 50%. So, we're more tired as a society today. I feel like so many people feel so much more depressed. They're struggling in so many ways. And it really makes you wonder, is it the amount of time that we are spending on screens, on social media, really have a lot to do with it? Because truly, this is an unbelievable vampire that is sucking time right out of our lives. Now, while that time vampire is affecting you from the standpoint of actual minutes and hours each day, there is another vampire that works directly in conjunction with that time vampire, and that is the energy vampire. Because the energy vampire is literally sucking the energy out of you. And when you're on all of this different types of social media, streaming, video games, you wind up with almost a bit of fatigue or burnout from so much screen time. And, some of the symptoms that are associated with it of this type of exhaustion, it's feeling tired, you're lethargic, you're irritable, you're emotionally drained, which from what parents tell me, describes so many of their kids so many times. They may actually have a physical ailment such as a headache, or they actually feel physically weak. Because, again, your mind is processing everything that you're doing on these screens, whether it's video games, whether it's movies, whatever it is. But you're not exerting your body in any way. And it literally is just zapping the energy right out of you. So it's not that the time vampire is your only problem, because I hear people say all the time that they just don't have time to get the things done they want to get done, that they just don't have the time to, whether it's work out or whatever it is they want to do, start a business, change their life, all the things they want to do. It always falls down to time. Guys, it's not a time game. It's a mental game. And you have to be able to turn these things off in order to get to where you want to go. And those two vampires, the energy-sucking vampire and the time-sucking vampire, literally work in conjunction with one another. And it is devastating to our lives. But unfortunately, I'm going to take it even further than that, because the time-sucking vampire and the energy-sucking vampire actually wind up going through a metamorphosis, right? They wind up mutating. And when they mutate, when a time-sucking vampire mutates, it mutates into a motivation sucking vampire. Because when your time is gone, your motivation and your inspiration for getting the things done and doing the things you want to do to accomplish your goals and achieve your dreams, that motivation goes away too. It gets sucked right out of you. So that time vampire literally changes into a motivation sucking vampire. And now you're facing that. And look, it's hard enough sometimes to get motivated, right? I don't know about you guys, but there are days when I feel super motivated and there are other days when I don't. And what I've learned over the years is that you can never rely on motivation. You need to rely on consistency and on discipline. But motivation, it's kind of like a sugar high, right? It feels really nice to be motivated and to want to do something, to want to get something done. And when that motivation is just stripped out of you, it makes everything else so much more difficult. And that's why so many times people don't reach their goals. They don't stick with their fitness plans. They don't create that business that they want to do or create that lifestyle that they want to create because, everything is just literally sucking the life right out of them. And that's why I call them vampires. And the fourth vampire is, again, another mutation of the other two, or actually of the other three in a way. So that time-sucking vampire, the energy-sucking vampire, the motivation-sucking vampire winds up morphing or mutating into the productivity-sucking vampire. And guys, our whole lives, our success in achieving everything that we want to achieve depends upon our productivity. Right? In order to be productive, we need to manage our time, we need to manage our energy, and we need to stay motivated and be able to do the things that we want to do in order to be disciplined enough to get through to the next step. And what's happening is these four vampires they're destroying us. They're destroying our dreams, and they're making us feel like we just can't achieve what we know we can achieve. But our minds start telling us, I'm tired, I don't have time, I'm not motivated, I'm the most unproductive person, I procrastinate all the time, and boom, suddenly we are stuck in a rut that we literally just cannot get out of. But instead of using garlic and wooden stakes and crosses to fight these vampires, I'm going to show you 9 different things that you can do that really helps to battle these vampires and put them back in their graves. Not you, but them. And the first one is that you really got to work on controlling your stress. And a lot of these things that I'm going to talk about going forward are ways that you can control your stress. But one of the easiest ways to control your stress, and a lot of you are going to yell at me right now, and I totally get that, but you have to live in the present, right? If you're stressing over what happened yesterday, you don't have control over that anymore. It was yesterday. If you're stressing over tomorrow and what could happen tomorrow, you can't do that either. That's the history and that's the present and that's the future. You can't control those things. What you can control is what's in front of you right now. And right now, you know that in order to not have to worry about yesterday and to not be fearful of what's coming tomorrow, you need to increase your energy. You need to increase the amount of time that you have to do the things that you want to do. And you need to be able to manage your motivation and your productivity. So stress is a huge part of this in so many ways. And I don't know about you guys, but so many times I feel like I have so many things to do that I can't decide which one is the most important. And when I can't decide which one is the most important, I flounder and I'm like, I have so much to do. I don't know how to handle all this, and I get nothing done. So you have to be able to say, okay, I have these 10 things to do, and here's my list. And the first thing I need to realize when I have that list is I need to realize that there is a very, very high probability that I am not going to get everything done on that list. But if I only get 3 things out of 10 or 5 things out of 10, that is still so much better than just sitting there worrying about the list and actually not getting anything done. And one of the ways that you can also manage this is, number 2 is lighten your load up. Okay, you have to learn to be able to say no to things. And that's whether it's kids' activities, it's booster clubs and, fundraising events for if you have kids, or even at work, being able to say, you know what, guys, I can't go out after work tonight. I've got to go home. I have things I'm working on. Or even if it's getting away, sometimes you just need to be able to say no. Number 3 is, of course, my biggest one that I always know has the most positive effect on me, and that is exercise. Make sure you're getting your exercise in. I know I've said it 100 million times before because this is the MindFit Method podcast, but exercise does not just benefit your body, it benefits your mind. And when you can get your mind in check, your body has the amazing ability to regulate your mind, to regulate your mood, to regulate your mind's energy, to regulate your neurochemicals and neurofactors, all of that. So you have to exercise. It is probably the most effective way to battle against these vampires, more than anything else. Obviously, avoid smoking. There's nothing that you want to do like that puts that type of chemicals and that type of crap in your body that just don't do it, period. It's just going to make you so much worse. It's going to stress you out. It's going to make you anxious. Do not do those things. Restrict your sleep, okay? You need to be able to set time frames where it is okay to sleep and when it is not. Be able to say, okay, I need to go to bed by this time because I know I have to get up by this time. If you're going to bed 2 hours late at night and then you can't figure out why you can't get up in the morning, it's because you need more sleep, right? And while everyone's sleep pattern's different, when they enter into REM sleep, when they dream, all of those things, understand your sleep. Don't sleep in times when you shouldn't be. Don't sleep, in the day, but at the same time, make sure you're getting your sleep at night. Make sleep a priority and be as consistent with your sleep as you are with your exercise. The next one is, imagine if you had a Ferrari, right? You buy this beautiful Ferrari, and the first thing you do is get this old can of old rusty gas can, and you dump that gas into the Ferrari. Would you really do that? Right? You just bought this $250,000 Ferrari and you're going to put crappy gas into the car. You wouldn't do that because you want that car to perform at a high level. Well, you need to do the same thing when it comes to your bodies. The fuel that you put in your body, make that fuel be for energy. Make it be for focus. Control your sugar, control your caffeine, use it to your advantage, but don't overuse it. One of the studies I'm seeing right now that I find very interesting, and I have not tried this yet, so I will say that up front, is that I'm reading studies that say you should really limit your caffeine input or intake when you first wake up for the first 90 to 120 minutes, not to take it into that during that time. Just drink water, and then you can drink caffeine after that point. And the reason is that your blood actually filters out the adenosine that's in your blood that accumulates overnight. And if by doing that, you don't have the energy crashes later on in the afternoon. So that is something that I am going to be looking at in the coming weeks and implementing in the coming weeks is, can I stop drinking coffee the second I wake up? Because literally when I come downstairs in the morning, the first thing I do, while some people may reach for their phone, while some people may do something else or even hit a bathroom, the first thing that I do is I run to that coffee machine. And I do get the crashes in the afternoon. So use caffeine to your advantage if you can. Oh, and on top of it, I actually don't even drink caffeine because mine is decaf at this point because of my lovely little cardiac incident that I had. So, use it to your advantage, but limit it. And the last one is limit alcohol. Make sure that the amount of alcohol that you're drinking on a weekly basis is realistic and that you can actually handle it. You don't want to put yourself in a situation where the things that you're putting into your body are only harming you. It's making it worse. If you have to drink a lot, by gosh, drink water, right? Don't drink pricey sports drinks. Don't drink Red Bull and energy drinks. It's literally cancer in a can, right? Do not drink those things. Instead, focus on water. 70% of our body is made up of water, right? So you have to be able to fulfill your body's needs. And water is a filter. Like it literally filters everything out of our body that we don't want in it, right? That's how we get it out of us. So always keep boosting that water. So remember, those are the 9 easiest ways to fight these vampires. Control your stress, lighten your load, learn to say no, exercise, avoid smoking, restrict your sleep, eat for energy and eat for focus and productivity. Use caffeine to your advantage, but don't overuse it. Limit your alcohol and drink water. Now, there's one more thing I want to say about this, because if you listen to that advice, isn't that pretty much what we tell our kids to do, right? We tell them to relax. It's going to be okay. Sometimes you have to learn when you can and when you can't do things. Make sure you exercise. Don't smoke. Make sure you get to bed on time. I know my kids are notorious for this. Like, they just want to stay up, but then they don't want to get up in the morning. So we do have pretty much hardline bedtimes that, all right, you got to go to bed. And it's not because of any other reason of mom and dad trying to be a pain in the butt. It's just time to go to bed because you need your sleep. You are a developing child and you need your sleep. Make sure they're eating correctly. My kids really don't consume caffeine, and they certainly don't drink alcohol because they're too young. But they really have to be able to look at those things, and that's what we want our kids to do. So if we want our kids to do it, there's no reason that we shouldn't do the same thing. But I'm going to end this podcast on this note because there is one type of vampire. So we talked about 4 different types of vampires today, right? Because vampires are real. There's the time-sucking vampire, the energy-sucking vampire, the motivation-sucking vampire, and the productivity-sucking vampire. But I'm going to tell you one thing, and I'm seeing this a lot in the news today, and it really bothers me. There's one kind of vampire that is not real, besides the one with long fangs that sucks your blood. There is another type of vampire that is not real. And that is the success-sucking vampire. Okay, there is no vampire that's going to suck away your success. Those decisions come from you. What I'm seeing today, and this is a really bad thing that kids are being taught today, is that I'm seeing success being villainized, right? Villainized like a vampire, but it's not. We want our kids to be successful. We want our kids to be successful and, yes, be wholesome and do it the right way, but we want them to be successful. But it seems that, especially in the media today and with the politicians, everyone keeps talking of how success is scarce and that if one person is successful, another person can't be. And that could not be further from the truth, because so much of what we do depends on, especially in the world of whether or not we are successful in whatever we define success as. So much of what we do is controlled by us. And when people say, oh, I don't have control over the things I do, look, just talking about how we started this podcast today, the number of minutes that are spent on social media, the number of minutes that are spent streaming movies, guys, we have time in our day to be able to control our future and take control of our destiny. Right? The numbers clearly show that, but it's making the mental decision and being disciplined about the consistency to actually do the things that we want to do. So go out there, battle those vampires, and work towards achieving your goals, being more productive, being more focused, feeling better about yourself, because this is the world that we live in today. Technology is not going away. It's only going to get worse and worse. In fact, if you look at what Mark Zuckerberg is doing right now, he's literally trying to create a metaverse, which is a world that we don't even live in. And he wants us to go live in that world instead of living in the real world that we live in today with all the things that we can do to control our world around us. Hey guys, as you know, I don't run any ads in this podcast. I do it on purpose. I just want to spread the message of the MindFit method and to create stronger minds and smarter bodies. But if you could do me this one ask, if you like this episode, if you would share it on your social media, tag me in it. I'd love to hear other topics that you'd like to hear about. I would be forever grateful. Thanks so much, everyone, and until next time.